Arrival on planet Tirana, where beauty walks the sky. The spaceship shook as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Jack Rayner held on tight, his heart beating fast. He had traveled for months through space, alone, on a mission no human had done before. His destination: planet Tirana, a world full of mystery, ruled by tall, beautiful alien women. Jack had read the reports. Tirana was peaceful, rich in nature, and full of strange beauty, but nothing in those reports prepared him for what he was about to see. The ship landed with a soft thud on green glowing soil. Jack looked out of the window. The sky was purple with floating islands drifting like clouds. Trees shimmered like silver, and the air itself sparkled with small glowing insects. It was like a dream. He stepped out of the ship slowly. The air was warm, but not heavy. It smelled like sweet fruit and fresh rain. Jack adjusted his gear and walked forward. Then he saw them. A group of tall alien women stood at a distance. Their skin had soft, pastel colors: pink, lavender, light blue. Their eyes were bright and intelligent, their clothes flowing like wind, made from shiny materials he had never seen before. One of them stepped forward. She was the tallest, with long white hair that moved on its own, like it had a life. She wore a crown made of light and spoke with a voice like music. "I am Lady Uwilina, leader of the Moonshade tribe," she said. "Welcome, human." Jack bowed. "Thank you, Lady Uwilina. I come in peace, to learn and to share knowledge from Earth." The women looked at each other, whispering. Some giggled softly. Jack wasn't sure if they were laughing at him or just curious. He felt like a rare animal being shown at a zoo. Then another voice cut through the group, playful and sharp. "Ha! He's smaller than I expected," said a younger alien woman. She had short violet hair and glowing golden eyes. Her smile was wide, and her gaze bold. "Varela," Lady Uwilina said with a warning tone. "Be respectful." Varela rolled her eyes. "I'm just saying. He's kind of cute." Jack blinked. Cute. Was that a compliment? Lady Uwilina turned back to Jack. "We have prepared a place for you. You will stay in the sky nest. If you need anything, the tribe will help. But remember, our ways are different from yours. Watch, learn, and earn our trust." Jack nodded. Understood. Later that night, Jack settled into his room in the sky nest. It was a floating platform high in the trees, made of living wood and soft glowing cushions. Strange birds flew around the nest, singing soft lullabies. Jack felt like he had stepped into another world. He opened his backpack to unpack his survival tools. Among them was a black case. He paused for a moment before taking out one of the personal items inside. A strange-looking device meant only for privacy and relief, something very common for long solo space travel. He placed it on the side table and got ready for sleep. But he didn't notice the soft sound of footsteps outside. Varela had followed him. She sneaked into his room silently, full of curiosity. Her eyes landed on the object on the table. She picked it up carefully, looking it over with interest. It was smooth, round, and had small buttons. "What is this?" she whispered. Just then, Jack opened his eyes. He sat up quickly. "Wait, no, don't touch that," he said, panic in his voice. But it was too late. Varela turned to him, holding the object in her hand, eyes wide with surprise and amusement. "Wow," she said loudly. "This thing for reproduction. I thought it was a toy." The door behind her opened. Two more alien women stepped in, hearing her words. Jack's face turned red. His heart pounded. "No, it's not. It's not what you think," he stammered. Lady Uwilina appeared in the doorway next. Her eyes narrowed as she looked at the object in Varela's hand. "What is that?" The room went silent. Jack had no idea what to say. He was surrounded, judged, and completely embarrassed. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this moment had just changed everything. "You're joking, right? Tell me you're joking," Human. Jack stood frozen. His heart raced. Varela was still holding the device. That device. The personal one. For human males, she held it like a child who found a shiny new toy. Only this toy wasn't for public viewing, especially not by aliens. Lady Wylina stepped inside the sky nest, her calm expression starting to fade. "Explain, human," she said, her tone still polite, but colder than before. Jack opened his mouth, but no words came out. How could he explain? Back on Earth, it was a private matter, a personal item. Here, on an alien planet, it had turned into a full-blown situation, a diplomatic nightmare. Varela giggled as she turned the device in her hand. "It vibrates too. Amazing. How does it attach?" Jack almost choked. "Varela, please, just put it down. That's not a toy. It's kind of a comfort tool, a stress reliever." Now 3 other alien women had entered the room. Curious, whispering. One of them, a tall blue-skinned female with glowing freckles, tilted her head. "Human tools are strange. Does it cause pain?" No pain," Jack said quickly. It's for, reproductive stress. Not for hurting anyone." Varela narrowed her eyes. "So it is for reproduction. I wasn't wrong." Jack sighed. "Yes, kind of. But it's not what you think. It's for when you're alone. It's not meant for public attention." Lady Wylina stepped closer. "Your people create such objects just to handle needs, without bonding." Jack nodded, embarrassed beyond words. "Sometimes, it's normal for humans. On Earth, it's private." Varela smiled wide. "I like this human technology. Can I keep it?" "Absolutely not," Jack shouted, finally snapping out of shock. The aliens laughed softly. To them, it was all new and funny. But Jack didn't feel like laughing. This wasn't how he wanted to represent Earth. He wanted to bring peace, culture, science. Not this. Later that day, a meeting was called in the center of the village, a large circle of crystal stones glowing under the twin suns. Jack was brought in by 2 gentle but firm guards. It felt more like a court than a welcome. Dozens of alien women sat in the audience. Some stared. Some whispered. Varela was there too, sitting confidently, still amused. Lady Wylina stood in the center. "Human Jack," she said, "this object you brought, it has caused confusion. We must understand if you are here in peace, or if your culture is too dangerous for our people." Jack cleared his throat. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. I'm here to share knowledge, not devices. That thing was personal. It's not for use here, and I'm sorry if it caused offense." A wise elder stood. Her name was Sorotin, and her voice carried weight. "Why do humans use such things? Do you not bond with others? Do you not need affection?" Jack answered honestly. "We do. But in space, during long missions, we are alone. Sometimes things like that help us stay healthy. It's not meant to replace real relationships." Varela leaned forward. "So human men need this even when no female is around?" Jack nodded. "Yes, but I'd really prefer if we could stop talking about it in front of the whole village." More laughter followed, but not cruel laughter. Curious, open, even kind. Lady Wylina raised a hand. "Enough. The object will be returned. But from now on, human Jack, you will teach us more about human bonding and culture. We need to understand what kind of species you really are." Jack blinked. "You want me to teach about relationships?" Elina nodded. "Yes, about your emotions, your rituals, your values." "Why not science?" he asked. Sorotin smiled. "Because your device told us everything about your science. Now we want to know your soul." Jack was quiet for a moment. Then he gave a small nod. "All right, I'll do my best." Later, Varela walked beside him as he returned to the sky nest. You handled that better than I expected, she said. Most males would have fainted. Jack smirked. I nearly did. She looked at him with curiosity. Are all human men like you? I don't know, Jack said. I guess I'm just the unlucky one who had his secrets exposed. Varela stopped. Not unlucky. Brave. Honest. Strange. But interesting. She leaned in closer. Do all your bonding rituals involve tools like that? Jack raised an eyebrow. What kind of human stories have you been watching? Varela laughed again. Just wondering. We have rituals too. But they're different. Maybe I'll show you someday. Jack looked at her, unsure whether she was joking or not, but something in her eyes had changed. Less teasing. More curious. More serious. As night fell on Tirana, Jack stared at the alien stars above, wondering what he had gotten himself into. He came to learn. But now, he was the one being studied. And deep down, he knew, this planet wasn't just beautiful. It was dangerous. Not because of weapons, not because of war, but because the alien women here were beginning to understand human desire. And they liked it. The breeding trials. He wasn't supposed to be picked. The next morning, the village of Tirana buzzed with excitement. A great event was about to begin, one that only happened once every 100 years. The breeding trials. For the people of Tirana, this was more than just a ritual. It was a sacred tradition. A time when the strongest, smartest, and most emotionally connected females competed for the right to form a bond with a potential mate, usually chosen by the elders from among their own kind. But this year, everything was different. Because for the first time in Tirana's history, there was a human male in the village. Jack had no idea what was about to happen. He woke up in the sky nest, stretching, still trying to forget yesterday's disaster with the device. He hoped today would be quieter. It wasn't. A group of alien guards arrived with golden robes and flowered headpieces. They bowed to him and said, "Human Jack, the council has summoned you for the choosing." Jack blinked. The choosing of what? One of the guards smiled. The breeding trials, of course. You are this year's chosen male. Jack sat up straight. What? No, I didn't sign up for that. I'm just here to study, not to, mate. But it was too late. Across the village, banners flew, drums echoed, and the trial grounds filled with hundreds of spectators. Elder Soritin stood on the high stone platform, her voice strong and clear. This year, she said, we break tradition. The stars have sent us a new kind of male. Not of our world, but brave, emotional, and full of mystery. I tried law, he must not be forced. But if he accepts, he will be the one who decides which female is worthy. The crowd roared. Jack stood awkwardly in the middle of the trial grounds, wearing ceremonial robes that looked like they belonged in a dance contest. He leaned over to one of the guards and whispered, "What happens if I say no?" The guard replied, "You may leave, but the whole village will be very disappointed." Jack sighed. Of course. Before he could say anything more, a loud drumbeat shook the ground. From behind silver curtains, 5 alien women walked forward, each from a different tribe, each glowing with pride. The first was a tall warrior with green-tinted skin and armor made of crystal plates. She flexed her arms and shouted, "I am Telterra of the Windfangs. I defeated a sand beast with bare hands. I will protect my mate with my life." The crowd cheered. The second woman stepped forward. Her name was Telian, a calm healer with silver tattoos. "I am not strong in battle," she said, "but I understand emotions, wounds, and dreams. I can bring peace to a restless heart." Soft applause followed. The third candidate was a wild-looking alien with bright red hair and feathers on her arms. "I hunt. I fight. I mate fast and love wild. Pick me if you want fire." Jack nearly choked. The fourth came forward, a diplomat from the Skywater tribe. Her voice was like silk. "Human Jack, I do not need to win you with words. I simply ask for a chance to know you. Jack thought, well, that was surprisingly normal. And then came the fifth. Varela. She strolled forward with no weapons, no war paint, no speech. She just smiled and winked at Jack. Whispers broke out in the crowd. Some laughed. Some looked shocked. One of the elders leaned to another. She's not even a candidate. She broke protocol. Jack's heart raced. What is she doing here? Varela stood beside the others and raised her hand. I may not be a chosen warrior, but I've spent more time with the human than anyone else here, and I'm not here to win, only to show him who I really am. Lady Wylina stood up angrily. You entered without permission. But before she could speak further, Soritin raised a hand. Let her stay. The trials are sacred, and the human must choose freely. Jack looked around nervously. The crowd stared at him. The candidates waited. The drums stopped. Then, Elder Soritin spoke again. The first trial will begin now. It is not of strength, not of speed. It is of truth. A glowing orb floated into the arena. This orb reads emotional waves. Soritin said, each candidate must tell a truth about herself. If the orb glows blue, it means honesty. If red, it means deception. One by one, the women stepped forward. Zeltera said, I fear no beast, but I fear being alone. Blue light. Telian said, I once fell in love with someone, and they chose another. Blue light. The wild hunter said, I've broken 3 bonding pacts, but I still want to try again. Blue. The diplomat said, sometimes I wish I was not chosen, just free. Blue. Then came Varela. She stepped up and said loudly, I stole the human's private device, showed it to the village, and made him feel shame. But I did it because I wanted to know what made him special. The orb pulsed, brighter than before. Deep, calm, sky blue. The crowd gasped. Even the elders looked surprised. Soritin nodded slowly. It is rare for someone to admit their wrongs in front of all. Jack stared at Varela. She didn't smile this time. She just looked at him. Real, honest, open. And in that moment, Jack felt something shift. This wasn't just a game or a ritual. This was a real choice. And deep inside, something told him. He was no longer just a visitor. He was becoming part of their world. You can't just touch him like that. He's human. The trials continued into the late afternoon, and Jack felt like his brain was spinning. He had just watched 5 alien women share their truths under a glowing orb, and one of them, Varela, the troublemaker who embarrassed him yesterday, had somehow made the strongest impact of them all. Jack had never been part of any contest like this. Back on Earth, if a girl liked you, she asked you out. Maybe you went on a few dates, had awkward conversations, and tried to act cool. But here, women competed in public for the right to claim him. And now, it was time for the second trial. Lady Wylina stepped forward and raised a long staff carved with stars and moons. The second trial, she announced, is a physical connection. Each candidate will show how she bonds through closeness, without words. Jack's eyes widened. Wait, what does that mean? Varela leaned in and whispered with a grin, it means they're going to touch you. What? But the drums started again, and the trial began. The warrior Zeltera walked up first. Without hesitation, she placed her hand on Jack's shoulder, then pressed her forehead to his. Her eyes closed. Her skin was warm, strong, steady. She whispered nothing, but the silence said enough. Jack could feel her strength, her calm power. Next was Telian, the gentle healer. She simply sat beside him, took his hand, and traced his palm softly. Her fingers moved like wind through tall grass. It was comforting, soothing. Her presence felt like peace. The wild red-haired hunter ran up next. She jumped, wrapped her arms around him from behind, and laughed loudly. Surprise bond. she shouted. Jack almost fell over. "Sorry," she said, chuckling. "I just wanted to see if humans like wild love." He coughed and smiled nervously. "I prefer a warning next time." Then came the calm diplomat. She didn't touch him. She just walked in a slow circle around him, maintaining eye contact the whole time. She bowed at the end and whispered, "Touch is sacred. Sometimes the strongest bond is the one we don't rush." Jack nodded thoughtfully. That actually made sense. And then came Varela. She strolled forward like it was a normal day, not a public trial. The entire village watched, silent. She stood in front of Jack, looked him straight in the eye, and said, "May I touch you?" The question was simple, but powerful. Jack blinked. Yes. She gently reached up and touched his cheek. Her fingers were soft but cold. Then, slowly, she ran her hand down to his chest, rested it over his heart, and leaned closer. "You're nervous," she whispered. "Your heart is fast." Jack gave a half smile. "That's because 5 alien women are trying to win me like a trophy." Varela's smile faded. Not a trophy. A choice. She stepped back without saying more. Her touch had been light, but it stayed with Jack longer than any of the others. Just then, a loud voice shouted from the side of the arena. "Enough." Everyone turned. An alien woman stormed into the circle. She was tall, fierce, and wore golden armor. Her eyes burned like fire. Jack leaned to Varela. "Who is that?" She looked serious now. "That's Commander Zavera. She's from the Highblade tribe. She wasn't invited." Zavera pointed straight at Jack. "This human does not belong to these games. He has no right to choose. He is ours now. The council should have delivered him to the ruling clans." Lady Ylina stood tall. "Zavera, you are not welcome here. This human came under peace. He is not your possession." Zavera ignored her and walked straight to Jack. "Is it true what they say about your stamina, your abilities?" Jack stepped back. "What exactly are they saying?" "That humans can bond 5 times a day, without losing strength," she said bluntly. Jack blinked. "Oh, well, it depends on the human, and the day, and maybe some protein snacks." Without warning, she reached out and touched his arm. Hard. Possessive. Varela stepped between them like a shield. "You can't just touch him like that. He's human." The crowd gasped. No one had ever challenged Commander Zavera so directly. Zavera growled. "Step aside, girl." "No," Varela said. "He's not your toy, and he's not your property." Jack was stunned. For all the teasing, the bold jokes, the laughter, this was the first time Varela had truly stood for him. Elder Soratin raised her staff and shouted, "Enough. This is not a battlefield. Guards, remove Zavera from the sacred ground." The commander glared at them all. "You'll regret this. You think this human is a gift, but he will become your weakness." And with that, she vanished into the forest. The tension in the arena faded slowly, but Jack could still feel the stares. Everyone had seen what happened. And now, they didn't just see him as a guest or a curiosity. They saw him as desirable, and also as dangerous. That night, back at the Sky Nest, Jack sat beside Varela under the twin moons. The wind was soft. The stars glittered. "Thanks," he said quietly. "For what?" she asked. "For standing up for me. Twice now." Varela shrugged. "I may tease you, human, but you're still mine to tease." Jack laughed. "You're complicated." She looked at him seriously. "No, Jack, I'm just real." He looked at her and thought, maybe this wasn't about winning a trial at all. Maybe this was about understanding something more powerful than science. Something called trust. And for the first time, he wondered, was he still in control of this journey, or was Tirana slowly becoming his destiny? The ritual of choice, human or history. Morning came slowly on Tirana. The twin suns rose behind a line of glowing mountains, lighting the sky with streaks of orange and soft purple. Birds with silver wings flew past the sky nest, singing their high, haunting melodies. But inside, Jack Rayner couldn't sleep. His body was tired, but his mind was wide awake. He sat near the window, looking down at the village. Below him, the tribes were preparing the main square. Banners of every color waved in the wind. The final day of the breeding trials had arrived. But today was different. Today was the ritual of choice, a moment of truth. It wasn't just about Jack choosing someone. It was about everything the aliens believed, and whether they were ready to change. A soft knock came at the door. Jack turned. It was Varela. She didn't enter. She stood in the doorway quietly, holding something in her hand. A small glass flower. "I made this," she said. "We shaped them during the final night, before the choice." Jack looked at her. "Why give it to me?" Varela smiled, but her eyes were serious. "Because I want you to know, if you don't choose me, I'll still be okay. But if you do, I'll never let you walk alone again." Jack took the flower, his fingers brushing hers. "You're not like the others." "I know," she said. "That's why I never thought I would win. But I'm not here to win, Jack. I'm here to be real." She left before he could say another word. Later that day, the entire village gathered in the great amphitheater made from stone and sky glass. Above them, long light streams danced across the clouds, a natural effect caused by the planet's energy field. It made the sky look like a waterfall made of stars. Jack stood on the highest platform, wearing the ceremonial robe of the one who chooses. 5 women stood below him, all beautiful, all brave, all unique. Lady Ylina stood beside him and raised her staff. "Today, we do not fight. We do not test. We do not question. Today, we trust." She turned to Jack. "You have witnessed our strength, our minds, our hearts. Now you must decide. Which one of these shall be your bonded companion?" Jack looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of alien eyes stared back at him, watching, hoping, waiting. But his eyes only searched for one. Varela. She didn't smile. She didn't move. She just waited, quietly. Jack stepped forward and took a deep breath. "I didn't come here to fall in love," he said. "I came here to learn, to share human knowledge, to bring peace." Murmurs began to rise in the crowd. But Jack continued, "What I learned here is that peace isn't just about science or facts. It's about connection, respect, and trust." He walked down the steps slowly. "I seen strength," he said, nodding at Terra. "I felt kindness," he said to Telian. "I've known freedom," he said to the hunter. "And I've learned patience," he said to the diplomat. Then he stopped in front of Varela. "But with you," he said softly, "I've seen something else. Something dangerous. Something beautiful. You challenged me, embarrassed me, protected me, and never asked for anything in return." The crowd was silent now. Jack reached into his robe and pulled out the glass flower. "I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't even know if I'll be allowed to stay on this planet. But if I have to choose..." He placed the flower in Varela's hand. "I choose you." The moment froze. Then the crowd exploded into cheers. Elder Sorotin raised both hands. "The ritual is complete. The human has chosen. Tirana welcomes the bond." But before the celebration could continue, a sudden sharp blast echoed across the village. Boom! A fireball rose near the outer edge of the village wall. Screams followed. Jack turned instantly. What was that? A group of guards ran into the amphitheater. Attack! The Highblade rebels. They've returned. Lady Ylina's eyes went wide. Zavara. Within seconds, chaos erupted. Explosions in the distance, lights flashing, people running. Sorotin stepped forward. "They've come to take the human. They think he's too dangerous, that if he stays, he will change everything." Jack looked at Varela. What do we do? She grabbed his hand without hesitation. We run, but not to escape. To fight. They raced through the village, dodging blasts and collapsing structures. Tirana had never seen war in centuries, but now it was burning. Jack's heart pounded, not from fear, but from a strange, deep purpose. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. This was about proving that humans didn't come to destroy. They came to stand beside those worth fighting for. Enemy in the shadows. Humans were not supposed to be here. The ground shook beneath Jack's feet. Screams echoed through the once peaceful village of Tirana. Fires burned where gardens once grew. Smoke rose into the violet sky, darkening the stars. The smell of ash mixed with flowers. It was surreal. Jack ran, Varela at his side, through broken archways and glowing trees now scorched black. The breeding trials had ended just moments ago. He had made his choice, declared it in front of all. And now, everything was falling apart. Highblade rebels had attacked without warning. Their leader, Commander Zavara, had returned, not just to protest, but to destroy. They came for me, Jack said breathlessly as they ducked behind a collapsed wall. I told you, I'm the problem. No, Varela said firmly, eyes glowing with anger. You're the change. That's why they fear you. Suddenly, a bolt of red plasma hit the wall beside them. Dust exploded. Jack coughed and pulled her down. From behind, a voice growled. There he is. 4 armored high-blade soldiers approached with laser staffs. Their helmets had red visors, and their movements were sharp, too sharp. Jack grabbed a metal rod from the ground. It wasn't a weapon, but it was something. Jack, go left, Varela shouted. She charged forward like a storm, grabbing a fallen warrior's staff and spinning it fast. She moved with fury, striking 2 soldiers before they even raised their weapons. Jack swung the rod clumsily but managed to block a blow aimed at his head. He stumbled back, heart racing, until another rebel raised a stun gun. Zap! The soldier froze mid-motion and collapsed. Behind him stood Talion, the healer, now holding a stolen blaster. You're not the only one who came to help him, she said, her silver tattoos glowing. More allies began to appear. Xel Terra the warrior, the hunter girl, even the quiet diplomat. One by one, they joined Varela in standing between Jack and the rebels. I thought we were rivals, Jack said, stunned. Xel Terra grinned. The trials are over. You're ours now. Jack couldn't help but smile. Well, that's both terrifying and comforting. But their moment was short-lived. The main gate exploded in the distance. Commander Zavara had entered the village. She walked like a goddess of war, her golden armor gleaming under firelight. Behind her marched dozens of high-blade rebels. I warned you, she shouted, voice amplified by a speaker. That human does not belong here. He will weaken us, soften us. And if you continue to protect him, then you are traitors to Tirana. Lady Ylina stepped forward from the smoke, standing tall even in the chaos. No, you are the traitor, Zavara. You bring war to a world of peace. He brings change. Zavara barked. And change is poison. She pointed her staff at Jack. Capture him, or kill him. The rebels charge. Jack's heart pounded as the final battle began. The sky turned red with flames. Alien warriors clashed, staff against blade, blaster against shield. Jack fought beside Varela, trying to stay alive. He wasn't trained for this. He was a scientist, an explorer, but now he was fighting for his life. And for her. Suddenly, a rebel tackled Jack to the ground. The man raised a blade, but before it could fall, Jack activated a hidden human tech button on his belt. Zap! A burst of electrical shock pulsed outward, knocking the attacker off him. That's new, Varela said, pulling him back up. Emergency defense system. Earth calls it the last hope button. They ran together toward the heart of the village. That's when Jack noticed something strange. The fire, the smoke, the damage. It was all centered around the Elder's tower. "They're not just here to get me," Jack said, eyes narrowing. "They're here to take something." Virella's eyes widened. The Celestial Archive. Jack remembered. The ancient records of Tirana, containing everything. Culture, science, history, but also something more. The archive has galactic codes, Jack realized. Star maps, jump coordinates, even alien weapon tech. If Zevara gets that, she'll start a war far beyond this planet. They pushed forward through smoke and fire. Zelterra joined them, covered in dirt and blood. "The rebels are focusing their forces at the tower," she growled. "We won't reach them in time." "No," Jack said, "but I can." He pulled out a tiny black cube from his belt. "A memory prism?" Virella asked. "But that only records data." Jack smirked. "It also uploads. If I can reach the archive, even for a few seconds, I can transfer everything into this, then destroy the original. But that knowledge, it's sacred." "Yes," Jack said, "which is why we can't let it fall into the wrong hands." Virella paused, then nodded. "Then let's finish this." Inside the tower, the air was thick with smoke. Rebels had already broken through the archive's doors. A glowing orb hovered in the center, projecting maps, formulas, histories in midair. Commander Zavera stood beneath it, her hand outstretched. But just before she could take it, boom! The ceiling shattered. Jack dropped in from above, rolling and landing hard. Zavera turned, furious. "You," she shouted, "you come here to steal what's not yours." "No," Jack said calmly, holding up the cube. "I come to protect what's not yours." She lunged, but too late. Jack pressed the prism to the orb. Wearer. Lights flashed, data streamed. A deep hum filled the room. Jack looked at her with fire in his eyes. "Humans weren't supposed to be here. I get it, but maybe that's exactly why we were needed." And with a single command, "Delete original," the orb flashed once, then went dark. The entire room dimmed. Zavera screamed in rage. "You fool! You destroyed centuries of knowledge." "No," Jack said, holding the cube close. "I saved it, and I'll give it back when Tirana is safe." Outside, the rebels began retreating. The battle was over. Tirana had survived. Barely. And as the dust settled, Jack stood with the women who had defended him. Virella looked at him, breathing hard. "You destroyed their plan. You saved us." Jack nodded, exhausted. Let's hope it was worth it. Because in his hand was the key to a future he still didn't fully understand. Love, war, and the toy that changed everything. Silence had returned to Tirana. But it wasn't the peaceful silence of birds singing or waterfalls flowing. It was the silence that came after battle, when ash still hung in the air and broken homes whispered of what had been lost. Fires were out. The rebels had fled. And the people of Tirana were forever changed. Jack stood in the center of the village, surrounded by scorched stone, cracked trees, and tired but living warriors. In his hand was the black cube, still glowing softly. Inside it, the entire celestial archive, the most sacred knowledge of the alien world. It had taken days to repair the injured, days more to bury the lost. Jack helped wherever he could, lifting stone, tending to wounds, offering comfort. For once, he wasn't the human, or the outsider, or the surprise contestant of the breeding trials. Now he was something else, a brother in their survival. And Virella, she never left his side. 3 nights after the battle, the council gathered for one final meeting. Elder Soritin, her arm bandaged and her voice soft, addressed the people from a raised platform of glowing stone. "We have survived," she said, "but more than that, we have grown. And we owe that to someone who came not as a conqueror, but as a student. Her gaze shifted to Jack, the human. The crowd turned. Jack stood awkwardly, holding the black cube close to his chest. Soratin raised her staff. We once feared he would change us. And he did. But not with violence. Not with power. He changed us. With choice. He showed us that trust is not weakness. That love is not surrender. The crowd murmured in agreement. Now, she continued, the knowledge of Tirana lies in his hands. And we must decide. Do we return it? Or do we let it travel beyond our stars? As part of a new future. Jack stepped forward. His voice was quiet but steady. I didn't come here to steal. I came to learn. And I promise, if you let me carry this knowledge, I will protect it. I'll share it only with those who are worthy. And if I ever break that promise, then you have the right to erase me from your skies. A hush fell over the gathering. Then Lady Uelina stood. I support this human. And one by one, voices rose. So do I. I trust him. Let him carry us into the stars. Varela walked to Jack, her eyes shining. It's settled. Soratin said, let the Archive become a bridge, not a wall. That night, under a sky full of stars, Jack and Varela stood outside the sky nest, now rebuilt, cleaner, stronger. A gentle breeze moved through the glowing trees. It was quiet again, the right kind of quiet. Varela looked at him with a smirk. You know, when I found that weird little device in your room, I thought you were just a strange, lonely traveler. Jack laughed. Yeah, I'll never live that down, will I? Nope, she said proudly. She pulled something from behind her back. It was the object, the one that started it all. But now it had been decorated with tiny crystals and alien symbols, a strange ribbon wrapped around it like a gift. You kept it? Jack asked, raising an eyebrow. I upgraded it, she said playfully. I call it the thing that changed everything. He chuckled, a little embarrassed. Great. Now it's historical. She grew serious then. You realize what really happened, right? Jack nodded slowly. Yeah, a strange human device opened a door to trust between two species and made people question everything they thought they knew. Varela looked at him with softer eyes. And you opened a door in me. They stood there a long time, hands touching gently, heads leaning together. Weeks passed. When Jack finally contacted Earth Command, he expected anger, confusion, maybe even orders to leave. But the voice on the screen simply said, stay, learn, protect, and send back whatever your heart says is safe. Jack smiled. He knew exactly what that meant. A month later, a new temple was built beside the Archive ruins. Inside, they placed a small display. It was a glass case. And inside it, that ridiculous little device with a plaque underneath that read, sometimes the smallest tool sparks the biggest change. Dedicated to human Jack and the bond that rewrote history. And so, the man who crash-landed with nothing but a suitcase, a strange toy, and a peaceful heart, became the legend who helped reshape an entire world. Not with war, not with power, but with honesty, awkwardness, courage, and a very, very misunderstood object.